let's take a look at the all-new BFD Crush expansion for BFD3. So here we are in Pro Tools. We have BFD3 opened up, and we're going to go through every single drum included, but let's get you up to speed first in case you don't know what BFD Crush is. BFD Crush is an expansion pack for BFD3, and I got to tell you, man, it sounds awesome. All right, so not only are we getting drums, the Sublime AXM drum kit, tuned and processed lightly, so you don't necessarily have to do a bunch of processing, although you're absolutely free to. This is, of course, perfect for progressive technical rock, metal genres, and whatnot. So not only does it come with drums, the thing that really excites me about this is because I've been wanting this in BFD3 for a long time, is the MEINL cymbals, or the MEINL, however you prefer to say that. So now we have some amazing MEINL cymbals in here, including some stacked cymbals. I mean, the cymbals alone in this pack, are worth the purchase. A quick look at the highlights. So of course, immensely detailed, a nice powerful kick drum, and it is very powerful. 8 dynamic and full-bodied snare drums. It's actually 3 snare drums, but they're just processed and tuned a little differently. We'll get to that in a minute. A bunch of toms. I mean, 6 toms, and they sound great. They sound different than any of the other expansion packs that I've heard for BFD3. And it's great that FXpansion is continuing to put out more amazing expansion packs, especially for metal and things like that. I mean, we have Oblivion, which is great. Sphere, awesome. Metal snares, great. Of course, metal snares can be used for anything, but as we can see, full complement of the MEINL cymbals. A light amount of processing, 10 presets, and these presets, by the way, aren't just sort of your standard drum sounds. There's affected sounds too. We'll get to that in the later half of the video. And then perfect for rock, metal, blah, 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 djent and whatnot. Of course, you can use this for anything, okay? And I will, of course, link to this page so you can read the rest of this yourself, okay? And if you want to see the FAQs real quick, what is Crush? There you go. What you need for it. And I've already done an install and authorization video if you don't know how to install it. And this is what's included. All of this stuff here, something like 27 or so different pieces. So let's hop back into Pro Tools in this case. Of course, we could use this in standalone, but I like Pro Tools. So first thing we'll do is come to our filter and do Crush. We're on presets, and there's the 10 presets that you get. Go to kits, use our filter, go to Crush, 5 different kits. I really never use kits. I usually prefer presets because I set, the mixer up, I set the effects up, and I want all of that stuff, but you have kits included. We're going to skip over drums, go to grooves. Now, there's not really a lot of grooves included here, or any grooves really. If you saw the installation video, there is a grooves folder, okay? So there's a groove palette right there. But if you come to your filter, you're not going to see Crushed, or at least I'm not. But there are grooves included there, as you can see, and they're right down here. Crushed. Go to the groove editor. I'll just grab it, throw it over there, and you just get a few, okay? Not a bunch. But if you want a bunch of free grooves, I just recently released the signature metal pack. You can grab that. That's free, and plus I have a bunch of older grooves that I put together. You just look for my YouTube channel, search BFD3 or something, and you'll find all of those grooves, hundreds and hundreds of grooves and presets for metal for free. All right, now let's move on to the drums. Go to drums, use our filter, come down to Crush. You can see there was 27 items. So 27 things to go through. A real quick look at it. You can see our toms, kick, more toms, snare, and our amazing cymbals, and these sound great. Let's start up here with our kick filter activated. Choose our kick. You can always look down here for the material. So this is a hybrid ash maple from Crush drums, of course. All right, felt beat or whatnot. Let's go ahead and hear these samples. Now, one thing to realize, let me actually go ahead and double click to load that up. One thing to realize is that in a lot of these samples, at least the kick and the snare, we can open our fly out there. We can, of course, adjust what microphones we're hearing. Okay. So what we're going to be hearing in this demo is everything full up. Just realize you can adjust the sound of your microphones to great detail, okay, to whatever you want. Just keep that in mind. And also, you'll notice this ambient mix over here. Okay, because of course in BFD3, we're not just getting one sample. We're not just getting direct sounds. I mean, that's what is that? Come on. We're getting all of the bleed. We're getting the overhead microphones. We're getting the room. And we're getting this really cool tile room that they modeled, which is also mentioned over here, that they even went through and recorded a tiled surface to give some shimmer. Okay. So head back into Pro Tools, and you see when I hit that drum, we're hearing all of that ambient mix. So if I have this drum here, I can of course trim that out, which for a kick you're going to be doing, and it's going to sound radically different. You know, because in metal you don't want your kick, at least not usually, you don't want your kick ringing out in your overheads and whatnot. At least not too high. It's going to get messy. So what we're going to do for a lot of these samples is you'll hear them with everything up, and then I'll just mute, you know, the ambient mix, so you can hear it in a more isolated context. All right, back to our kick. A lot of velocity layers here. Great sound. Kick no reso. I actually like this sample quite a bit. It's much more processed sounding. It's actually a perfect sound. And our kick no reso with our slam pad. If you don't know what a slam pad is, it's something that looks like this that you put on your kick drum head. All right, it can alter your tone, the tone of your kick drum. If you've never played, you know, real drums, that's what that is. So great sound. So back, mute the ambient mix. Hear these again. Great sound. Now this one, that's pretty much a perfect kick sound with no other effects going on. I mean, right there, you can almost drop this in and just do very minimal tweaking. Of course, you don't want to come over here to your ambient mics and turn that down, but we have this on mute right now. And the slam pad sample. All right, and of course, don't forget, you can always come to, say, your model tab, for example, and damp, or go to tweaks, and we can damp and whatnot. Let's head over to the snares. Now, as you can see here, we have those 3 or 4 snares are the same actual physical snare. Those 2 are the same, and those 2 are the same. These are sort of tuned differently and damped differently. So, for example, the high versus the low. Okay, and then the open, and then open low. Right. Okay. So let's go through these on the AXM damped high 14 by 5 inch snare here. Our drag, the half edge, the hit. If I mute that, much different. Nice hit there. And the side stick onto the low. Drag. It's our half edge and our hit. Rim. Rim click. Side stick. Samples for everything here in BFD3. This is the open sound. Mute the ambient. Great sound there. Awesome. And then the lower tuned. Drag. Rim. Here's the rim click. And side stick. Onto another snare now. This is a 14 by 7 hammered steel. The drag. It's our hit. Rim click, and side stick. And if I mute that ambient, great sound there. Onto the lower damped. So the difference, and back to the low, right? Mute the ambient. Great sample there. Onto the rim. Rim click. And your side stick onto the last snare. This one is stainless steel, aluminum, and steel hybrid. Dampened high. And then onto the dampened low. Mute that. All right. On to the one hi-hat that's included. And these, by the way, are immaculately sampled. I mean, that's perfect, man. Splash. Very low there. Of course, you can always choke that off if you want. Onto the toms here. All right, so floor tom 1, again, look down here to see what it's made out of. Hybrid ash and maple. Hit. Great. Now, these are very unique samples. They sound different than any of the other toms we have in BFD3 right now. So mute that ambient. You hear that? You know, sometimes in metal, you'll have a lot of direct sound and not a whole lot, at least of your drum kit. Not always, mind you, but sometimes you'll have a lot of direct for your kick, your snare, and your toms. And one of the reasons is it actually makes it sound bigger instead of having a bunch of bleed or you know, sound captured in your room microphones. It actually sounds bigger to have it more isolated because then it sticks out a little bit more. All right, so I want to make sure you hear the isolated samples as well, especially for you know, for the tom and the kick especially. All right, cool. Floor tom 2. This is a 16 by 14. That's a low tom right there. Sounds great though. Just imagine that pumping bum 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 bum, right? Rim. They even include a click, mute. That's great. Don't need to hear the click in isolation, I don't think. Onto the high tom 1, a 10 by 8. I actually like that quite a bit. Mute it. It's a nice sort of a hollow sound, but it sticks out. Cool. High tom 2. Mute. Very cool. Mid tom 1. This is 12 by 8. Of course, we have tons of velocity layers here. Mute the ambient mix. All right, and mid tom 2. Mute that. All right, very cool. So that is our toms, and I think as I already mentioned in the later half of this video, we'll have, you know, we'll go through the presets or at least kits, you know, put together, and you'll hear all of these drums in context. It might be hard to tell what these would sound like, you know, in an actual mix because they're going to sound differently once everything is combined. So we'll get to that later on, but we're moving on to our cymbals right now. So with our drop down, we have 9 cymbals, plus of course the hi-hat, so that's 10 total. Here we go. 10 dark splash, so dimensions 10 inch. And these are our MEINL cymbals, or MEINL cymbals, which again sound amazing. So we'll go to the bow of our dark splash. Listen to that. Edge. And that's the sound I've been wanting in BFD3 for a while. And now we have it. Like I said, this pack is worth it alone just for the cymbals. I mean, it expands your basically your color palette immensely. I could mute this, but I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And while of course, again, in metal, we actually do sometimes turn down the ambience of the even the overheads and everything of the cymbals, because again, it can just get too washy with really wide guitars, double track, triple track guitars, and a lunatic screaming right down the middle, along with our kick and our snare down the middle. Now it can get a little too washy, and sometimes you want a little bit of direction with your cymbal hits, and you can't really get direction with 2 overhead microphones or all the different microphones that we have. So sometimes we'll even load up a cymbal, then come over and trim out some of the ambient mics. And of course, we could always come in here and adjust the amount that we're actually sending, of course. Okay, so don't think you have to have your cymbals full up all the time in your overhead. Sometimes direction actually makes things sound larger, okay? So on to the next cymbal. This is a really cool one here. Our Crash China stack. I'm glad we have these stacks here, especially from the MEINL or MEINL. That's just a great sound, man. You'll hear that all the time in metal. That just real quick, right? There you go. Now you have it with the Crush pack. Thin Crash bell. Our bow. This is a 14-inch Crash. Again, sounds great. And the edge. Awesome. Our 16-inch bronze alloy. Crash China stack, which is really cool. Awesome. Love that sound. So here's our other China stack again. Very cool. And our dry Crash, a bell. Bow. And the edge. And as you can hear, these are just sampled perfectly. I'm not hearing a lot of low-end rumble. I mean, they sound processed. As it said in the description, lightly processed. Well, these are processed very, very well. That's just a great cymbal hit. Thin Crash. 18-inch. Onto the bow. Or some people like to call it the bow. Edge. Again, I'm not hearing a ton of low-end rumble in that, which I always have to go in there and I have to cut out. I'm not hearing that in here. Which tells me it was recorded, properly for sampling. Because again, in metal, we have enough low-end with the bass, with the kick drum. A lot of times your screamer might have a really a lower kind of a scream, and we're filling out that low end in 9-string guitars and whatnot. Right? We're filling that out. When you have a lot of that low end in your crashes, you of course have to dial that out, because if you don't, you're gonna have all this mud. This just starts to build up. Your cymbals, not all the time, but sometimes, a lot of times, you want to be taking up the higher end of your frequency range there. It's already clean. It's already processed. Perfect. On to the China. I love Chinas. I can't have enough Chinas, man. Edge. And this one is going to be one of my favorites for sure. The sound of the MEINL Chinas are just always instantly recognizable. Awesome. Onto a ride. Our bell, of course. Edge. Great decay on that too. Bow. And then our splash China stack. This is maybe my favorite thing ever in the entire history of the world. I love a good splash China stack. It's so hard to get that sound just by linking things together, which you can do. Link things and damp things. But this is perfect. You'll hear this sound all the time in metal. All the time in metal. Could mute the ambient if I wanted. You can have that, like I said, turn your ambient down. Sometimes, just something to try whenever you're mixing metal. Try to pull some of the ambience down from your, from some cymbals and have them be more directional and use panning, and then use, of course, maybe like effects and things to boost the overall signal if you have to. And get back to where I was here and try a more directional sound, and you might find it actually sticks out a little bit better. Whenever you limit the range of your drums to certain frequency ranges, they sound bigger overall instead of trying to have everything compete for one frequency range for the entire spectrum. That can actually make everything sound smaller, But actually, I think we're done hearing all of these individual samples. I just like this one quite a bit. Okay, so that is everything. That is every individual thing included with Crush here. No percussion, but that's what you get. Bunch of great cymbals, bunch of great toms, which are, again, very unique. The hi-hat sounds great, processed perfectly. Bunch of different snares to choose from. These sound great. But I also definitely check out the metal snares pack. I use that one all the time too, especially the Joey Jordison snare. It sounds amazing. But these also sound really good, which you'll hear more of once we get to the presets. And these kicks, especially, I really like this kick no reso here. Get rid of that ambient. Like I said, that's a lot of times that's the sound you're going for. This is almost like the sound of what we would call like a trigger, right? Just like that perfect sort of sound that you would blend in with another kick drum, maybe a more natural sound, and you have your trigger and your kick going together, and then you get a bit more of a layered sound there. But that sounds awesome just on its own. Okay, so that is all 27, I believe, kit pieces or drums that are included with BFD Crush. Now we'll listen to some of these presets. We're not going to hear every single one, but we'll hear some of the presets included with BFD Crush so you can get more of an idea of how all of these drums sound together. that is BFD Crush from FXpansion, a heavy, brutal drum expansion for BFD3.